5, 4, 3, 2.
What makes you say that?
Hello, friends. Welcome to What Makes You Say That. This is episode 8. My name is Brian Williams, and I'm happy to be joined once again by my esteemed colleague and 2018 Dáil Assembly conspirator, Mr. John Kerr. How's it going today, John?
It's fine, Brian. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me. I feel like I'm lucky to be here. So, yeah.
Around here, we like to warm up before the big game. So, are you ready for this week's warm-up question?
I'm ready.
We just witnessed on Friday the virtual Dáil Assembly for 2020. I think it would be great for you to try to sum up that event for you in a headline.
Well, in a headline, I'd have to say something like, "Teacher cries during O Canada," because I was struck by that for sure.
Yeah, I think you should add the plural to that. I think it's teachers. I think probably many people are in the same boat as you. Hey, we've got a very special Dáil Assembly episode planned today. We'll be discussing our highlights from this year's virtual Dáil Assembly. We'll also be chatting with 2003 BH graduate and alumni relations specialist Genevieve Cloutier about how important this event is to the entire BH community. We'll also catch up with two alumni from 1983 to discuss their experiences at the 1983 Dáil Assembly. And today is the day we finally answer the question that everyone has been asking since episode 1, and that is, what is the Dáil Assembly conspiracy? That and so much more, but the episode doesn't ever really start until we hear that quote.
All right, well, I tossed around a few ideas for quotes this week, but I've decided, given the events that are occurring all around us, that I would share a quote from poet Langston Hughes. And this is from his poem called April Rain Song. And I've taken a little bit of it. It says, "Let the rain kiss you. Let the rain beat upon your head with silver liquid drops. Let the rain sing you a lullaby." And as a English teacher, we talk quite a bit about what rain means in a work, and water and precipitation usually means some kind of cleansing. And so I give you the quote because I think the world could use a good bit of rain at the moment.
An important start to a very important episode. Episode 8 starts now. Well, John, we are now 76 days into this. What is different in the Kerr household, or what can you tell us that you haven't already told us so far?
Well, I did think about my week because I don't want to say that it's been the same. So I do have a few things that have happened. First off, I want to mention that I did go and read the poem David, all 187 lines of it. And I talked with my mom, who remembers the poem from her school days. And she goes, "Isn't that the depressing poem about the mountain climber?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the one." So a little bit of high tragedy for sure. I managed to I set a goal when I went in here. I wanted to do 50 push-ups at once. And I did it this week. So I'm pretty proud of that.
In a row?
In a row. So that was great. And I'm halfway through the sonnet. So I took a break from David, and I find that the sonnets in the 70s they're pretty good. So if you want to start somewhere, maybe start with 70 and read 70 to 79. And I also went to school. So it's been a busy week. I hear you also had a chat with the parents.
Yeah, if you remember Roast the Host last week, I incorrectly identified Laurier, and I was worried that Professor Williams would take quite an issue with it. And when he requested a meeting on my deck, I thought,
yeah.
Okay.
Even my eyebrows like, uh-oh, sorry, man.
Here it is. So no, you know what? My parents came for an outdoor socially distanced visit on our deck, and it was really nice to chat. And I was trying to gauge, his facial expressions when he first saw me. He's very much into and very much educated on World War I.
I have read his book. Great book.
He gave me a pass on it, and so I was very relieved and was able to kind of just enjoy the rest of the visit. So I did not get in trouble. It was a difficult question. And he knew exactly what I was thinking going with Laurier. So I am unscathed, I'm happy to say. And the other thing would be we went to work. I put on dress pants and shoes
and socks
and socks. And under the circumstances, it was still fantastic to see our colleagues and be in the building and see the fun grocery store like arrows on the floors and things like that. So quite a day, quite a week, 76 days in, nothing much else to say. Well, May 29th, 2020 will go down in history as the first time in the school's history we held a virtual doll assembly. So John, it was emotional. We heard you speak about O'Cana in the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your experience at the doll assembly this year.
Well, I mean, I cried way more. Normally I don't cry during O'Canada, but just hearing it again, I had forgotten how beautiful it is, and what a great start, asking us to stand, right? I mean, it's one thing to listen to the anthem, it's another thing to stand for it. I, as a grade 12 advisor, got to kind of watch the grade 12s on the Zoom call. So it was nice to see them and how they had gathered, and to see some of their reactions to, where their doll was placed, whether it was in a room or in a lab or on the couches. And I'm not going to lie, William sat and watched the whole thing with us, and normally he wouldn't be a part of it. So we got to watch it as a family together, and that made it really special for us.
Yeah, I think the doll assembly this year was quite amazing, and again, for me too, emotional. The one small voice is always one of those moments.
A nice throwback, eh?
Yeah, but it's coming, and the sound, it sounded amazing. It sounded great. I certainly missed being with the students and being with our colleagues as well, sitting on those chairs. And the lifer photos were great. The video, all of the technology really worked extremely well, I think. And you still got a sense of what it means, what those dolls mean to everybody, and what this moment means.
Yeah, I think it still captured the feeling, right? I mean, it's nice to be in person, as you say, but these are strange times.
And one of the things that I think, and we can talk about things that we miss about the in-person one. There are lots of reasons why this one will be remembered, and there are good highlights as well. But not being able to watch the graduate pick up the doll from the risers and then walk it over, that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, see the reaction, right? How they immediately begin to nurture that doll and hold it up. I mean, I hear you.
And so I think that was, but some of the things that I think the grads will talk about moving forward is having a video of this event, although different, having a video copy, which is not something that actually exists. But what a great event. It certainly felt like the community was there together watching, despite the fact that we were apart. So many people made this day happen. There's so much effort put into this day, and I think there's too many to list.
It's a practical chessboard metaphor.
There it is. So we would like to thank everybody who's involved in bringing that, but specifically with the dolls themselves. Jennifer McDonald basically pulls this together with the grade 11s. So I think we have to give a massive shout out to Jennifer McDonald. And one of the students, on behalf of all the grade 11s, has a thank you message for Jennifer McDonald. Have a listen.
We would like to thank Mrs. McDonald for the countless hours she has put in helping all of us make our dolls for the graduating class. We know this is not an easy task, making sure we are on schedule, have our shirts and shoes bought, stuffed our dolls, and drawn our faces. There were many emails, reminder emails, even more emails, and even a few house visits during the pandemic to pick up dolls that were in our homes. We certainly acknowledge that we could not continue this tradition on without you, Mrs. McDonald. Thank you for your patience, your guidance, and most importantly, the love you show for each and every student. Since we are not able to be together face to face, we hope you take this video as our most heartfelt thank you. A special delivery will be coming to you today. We hope you enjoy. Once again, thank you for everything.
To get a perspective from students who attended and were the main event of the doll assembly for 2020, we welcome current grade 12 student Portia Topnick and her sister, grade 9 student Alicia Topnick. How are you both doing today?
Hi, I'm doing quite well, enjoying my time at home by myself.
I'm doing good. It's nice out, so that's good, not cold anymore.
Well, it's great to see you and hear both of your voices. It's been quite a whirlwind of a few days through the doll assembly and how different it was. I'll start with you, Portia. Being in grade 12, the doll assembly is certainly a big event that everyone looks forward to. How long have you been looking forward to this year's doll assembly?
Honestly, probably as long as I've gone to BH and been able to attend. So I'm not really sure how young you are, maybe grade 1, because I've seen all the years go up and get their doll, and I was like, I want my doll. So yeah, it's been quite a while.
And so what do you think of the idea to do it virtually, and maybe what will you always remember about this year's event, and what was the best part?
Well, I mean, I got to actually sit with my family in the room, which was kind of nice. Other than the fact that I wasn't able to be physically there with my friends, that was kind of a highlight. But something that I'm able to go back and look at is the actual video. No other year has ever been able to go back and look and see their video and see what the production was. So I'm kind of excited I can have that as a memory forever.
Portia, I don't know how it was at your house, but Mr. Williams and I were joking about the fact that I started crying during O Canada. And you did mention that you watched it together as a family. Were there some tears? And if so, who let the waterworks go?
Well, I didn't cry, honestly. I was kind of just enjoying the moment, but I definitely saw my mom shed a little tear when Miss Haffenbrat came on the end, and she, the first words she said, my mom just started kind of having some tears in her eyes.
Yeah, we did talk about that with Miss Haffenbach as well. So, but yeah, as a whole, it's nice to hear you got a chance to enjoy it. Alicia, how about you?
I thought the ceremony was well done, considering the fact that people couldn't be together, and I know online projects or meetings and stuff are hard to put together, and I think it was really well done for what the circumstances were.
So there's lots of takeaways, and I'm glad, Portia, that you recognize some of the highlights and some of the reasons why, although different, this event was still pretty special. I want to switch now, and we're gonna ask Alicia kind of a similar question. But what was the first thing you thought, or what was the first thing you said when you met your doll for the very first time?
When the doll was brought to the house, Portia went out to the door, and I was like, "Hey, well, I haven't even seen the doll yet because I didn't get to finish it before we had to leave the school." And when I went outside, I was like, "Well, what's the doll gonna look like?" Because I gave the accessories, and I kind of just assumed that it was all gonna go well. And then when I saw it, I was I was proud, and I was but also very scared on what Portia would think, because it's one thing to make a doll for a grade 11, being a grade 11, making it for grade 12. It's another thing being your sister, because they're not afraid to say what they think. So I was a little bit worried, but I think she liked it, and that made me happy.
Okay, Portia, so why don't you tell us, Portia, what did you think?
Well, I mean, I saw Miss McGill walk up to my house, which was awesome, and I saw her pull out the doll, and the first thing that I said, I'm pretty sure, was, "It's wearing scrubs," because it's got a mask. This is hilarious. And I recognized where those scrubs came from. It was my Dr. Good Bear from when I was in grade 3 and broke my arm. So they utilized stuff from around the house, which was really awesome.
What a cool story. And I guess we're gonna ask Alicia kind of to describe, maybe we'll do that now. Alicia, tell me a little bit about the doll making process. Being in grade 9, generally this is more of a grade 11 test, but how great was it to focus your attention and make your sister's doll?
Well, I didn't find making the doll very difficult, because I've always been a crafty person, and I've my mom has helped me, she showed me how to sew. The process was pretty easy. Once Ms. McDonald showed us how to like do everything. I got it pretty quickly. The only thing that I was most worried about was the face, because you can't really turn back on that. Once it's on, it's on. But I think it was pretty good, and it was fun to like see how what the process is rather than just seeing the end result at the doll assembly. You just see all the dolls like on the stand things. It was cool to see how much it's a lot of work to make those dolls.
And I think it's great that we're talking about a tradition inside of a tradition, that siblings get to make their siblings doll. I think that's just fantastic, Alicia.
And Portia, did you know all along who was making your doll?
Actually, I originally had asked Julia Ryan to do my doll before I knew about the whole like sisters making dolls. And Alicia, I was driving home from school, and Alicia turns to me, she goes, "How about I make your doll?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, like why not?" But then my first reaction was, what do I tell Julia? Like I asked her to make my doll. And then I found out that other sisters were making other people's dolls, but I wasn't allowed to tell anyone about it, but I accidentally did. Whoops.
Okay, well, the last word, I guess, and we'll go to Portia as the graduate. Tell Alicia exactly how you feel the doll turned out.
Well, personally, I think she did a really awesome job. I didn't know she was going to do that much detail in the eyes. And I think that's really awesome. She did a really good job matching the hair color as well. Very impressed with the result of the doll.
Well, we want to thank you guys both for taking the time. I'm glad the doll assembly was a hit for you. And I'm glad that, Alicia, you were able to give something that your sister is going to keep forever, for sure. And I'm sure, Alicia, you're looking forward to the doll assembly in 3 years' time.
Thanks. Nice to chat with you.
Thanks again, girls.
Bye.
The doll assembly is memorable each year. For me, 2018, it was memorable, but there were also some other things that happened that day that make it memorable. That is the day, John, where one of those blue chairs was no match for me, and it happened to break during Best Friends, sending me to the floor. You and I...
You put the blue in blew up.
Yeah, I think the chair blowing up is the right way to explain it, I think. So you and I have different accounts of this day. So I'm going to give you the opportunity, as we try to explore the doll assembly conspiracy together, I'm going to give you your chance to tell everybody what happened that day. And then I'm going to come back with the real story after.
Okay, and I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, when you go to the doll assembly, you know that you're going to be singing Best Friends. And so seating assignment is really part of the strategy of where you locate yourself during the assembly. And the three of us, along with Mr. Cremusa, we entered the gym and we were going to take our seats. And I think that you were going to sit in the middle, and then I wasn't going to get to put my arms around both my best friends. And so I politely encouraged you to sit to the next chair and allow me to sit in the chair on the middle. And so that's how you found yourself in that chair. And then the music began and the swaying started. And you did go down. And I saw that you were okay, because you immediately right back in, arm around, swaying side by side, handled it like a pro. And so that really allowed me to laugh hysterically, because you hadn't suffered any serious physical injury. I won't speak to your emotional state, but that's, and then I think it should be duly noted that Ms. Troutman, I don't even know if the assembly was over, and that chair, which I thought might find its way into the archives, disappeared. Like it was gone.
Yeah.
And now there's no investigation. So, but that's how I remember it.
Yeah, and I think that last piece of information that you shared is something that we agree on. I think that, and that's partly what sparked my interest in the events leading up to my fall, is the fact that the evidence of the chair it's totally gone. So let me get to what actually happened, and then we're going to let the listeners decide if you had any hand in this at all.
There may be a conspiracy, but I don't I don't take part in it.
So we were walking in together to the assembly, and we would generally sit on the far side on the blue chairs in the line on the far side of the gym, on the opposite side of where you enter the athletic center. And what you said was true. The three of us did walk in, and I was headed towards the bleachers. And I wanted to sit on the bleachers, which would not have prevented us from singing Best Friends or anything like that. And I just thought that it was more comfortable because I was always afraid that one of these days the blue chair would collapse.
I think we were all afraid of that for our own selves.
That's right.
We sat in them.
Yeah, and so I allowed you to, to sway my opinion or my wish, and you directed us all to the blue chairs, and there happened to be three there. And I know in your story you said you encouraged me to sit on the left. I was gonna be sitting in the middle. Like I was the first one there. I don't believe you physically moved me. I'm gonna stop.
I do agree. I was adamant about where you should sit.
And I don't believe, so there's a very specific, so it's not on the bleachers, but very specifically this chair. And so then we sat, and you know what, for the most part, it was all good. And I distinctly remember this moment as best friends at the end. And don't forget, this is an important event for everybody. They don't need me interrupting it by falling off the chair. Right? Like
Actos,
yeah. And so I think in the moment Best Friends started, you're in the moment and you're enjoying the lyrics, just like we did this year. And I believe I said something to the effect of, oh my goodness, this is not going to be good. Because I could feel something, and then it was like a gunshot went off. Whatever happened the last through, and then all of a sudden I was looking up. And so I did get up, and I did finish the song, didn't miss a beat. There's no known video of the event. There is video of the aftermath and the chaos. And that video shows you and Mr. Cremusa easily laughing the hardest. Which is okay, fair enough. After you noticed I was okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Because I would have been one of the first people to know that you were okay.
No, you did show care and concern very quickly. I will give you that. But the last part of the conspiracy, despite the fact that even after the assembly, the two of you jokers in the corner giggling, I went to investigate the chair, but it vanished. And to this day, no one knows what happens to it. And that, my friends, is the doll assembly conspiracy. What happened that day, we'll never know. But Mr. Kerr was pretty sure that I needed to sit in that specific chair. And then it happened. You guys make the call. Let us know what you think. That's how I saw it.
Oh, that's great.
We're happy to be joined now by Jen Cloutier, who is the Balmoral Hall Alumni Relations Coordinator and 2003 BH grad. How are you doing today, Jen?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, we're having fun here today on the Doll Assembly episode. Lots of learning today as well, as we've shared some stories. But it's been great so far. Thanks again for joining us. We ask most of our guests the same question to start. How are you surviving the quarantine life, and how much has your job changed since we went to remote learning?
Well, I really feel lucky. I don't feel the burn of quarantine very much. My husband and I are both working from home. We get along super well. It's been really good. It's been really nice to see each other more and be with our animals more. And so I feel like it's not so bad. And as far as work goes, busier than ever, which is kind of fun. Lots of connectivity, a lot of alumni reaching out, wanting to kind of find their roots and come back to the school and their classmates and stuff. So it's been really rewarding for me. So yeah, I mean, all in all, can't complain. It's been good.
Well, that's great to hear. We just held the 2020 Doll Assembly, and it was virtual for the first time. It's always a highlight, this event. How was this year's different for you? Was there how much planning kind of went into how this was different than ever before?
The doll assembly is an interesting one because there are so many people involved in the planning of it, and we all play our own sort of specific role. I work closely with the Alumnae prefect on her presentation at the assembly, and also with the president of the Alumni Association on her presentation and our welcome message to the girls, to the Alumni Association. And so in terms of those things, they were about the same as usual, but we just did videos instead of in person. And it was a really fun assembly. I sat on my couch in my pajamas with my coffee in my hand and got behind the computer with my box of Kleenex and watched it and felt really happy about just the way it turned out. It was really special, I think, for the girls and for all of us watching. It's a little bittersweet because, I was sitting alone swaying to best friends instead of having my arms around my colleagues. But considering everything this year is really, really good.
It's probably safer if you get to do it alone instead of swaying on a chair.
Yeah. Nobody fell off a chair this year, hey?
No.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to bring it up, Jen, but since you did, do you remember 2018 and what happened?
I sure do.
Do you think that it was a coincidence, or do you think there's some sort of conspiracy as to the events leading up to that?
I feel like it was a happy accident that it was you that sat on the chair that fell over.
I like that you
across the gym. I saw you sit down on the chair and it just crumbled under you.
I love that you called it a happy accident.
It was.
Best description yet. So let's forget of 2018, please. But what is your fondest memory about the 2003 doll assembly?
Well, I was trying to think a little bit about that because, it's 17 years ago and so much has happened since then. And I've experienced, I guess, 9 doll assemblies in person at BH since then. I've been here for that long in the role I'm in. And it's all kind of a blur because it's so emotional and you're so excited and you're so sad and happy and everything all at the same time. And the only thing I remember from the doll assembly is once I got my doll and I went to sit on the bleachers, kind of as we do every year, and we still do the same routine. I just remember sitting with my friends and we were like showing each other our dolls and we're all crying and we're sharing Kleenex because we're, and it was just like so overwhelming. It's coming back to me now, but it was a really special day. And I think it is every year for the grads. It's a really nice tradition.
I think, you point out that really what you experience there is the microcosm of connectivity in that moment, right? And then in your role, you reach out to the thousands of alumni. But it's moments like that, right, that keep us connected. But that's a nice story.
Yeah, well, it really is those small memories that maybe don't feel like anything profound in the moment, but later on it's those things that you remember and the friends that you shared them with. And yeah, it's super special. It's a special thing that we have at BH.
Absolutely. I think this is a great way to wrap this session. That was an excellent story and memory. I think that's a memory that so many of our alum have. And thank you again for everything that you did for the 2020 doll assembly, for everything you do each year, and for connecting everybody and for being that connection to our really big, really large BH family. So on behalf of everybody at BH, we want to thank you for all of your efforts, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks
so much. Thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be included in this exciting podcast. I can't wait to listen to this episode with my Kleenex by my side.
Thanks again, Jen.
Thanks so much.
This week on social media, we posted another check-in with the BH community question, where we asked you to check in exactly like we do in our classes. John, do you have this week's check-in question?
Well, I think after we've spent some time talking about our favorite doll assembly moments, that we should put out a poll and ask our listeners if they believe it's conspiracy or coincidence as to what happened in the 2018 doll assembly chair event.
I think it's pretty clear, but yes, let's ask them.
All right, fair enough. And feel free to throw in your favorite doll assembly moment as well.
Well, that's going to be great. There are 3 ways you can answer this week's check-in question. You can email your response to bhpodcast@balmoralhall.ca, or you can post a video reply to the question using Flipgrid by following a link in the show notes. You can also answer the check-in question right in Instagram, so please connect with us, and we may share your thoughts on next week's episode. We are thrilled to have 2 BH grads join us today to reminisce about their doll ceremony from 1983. I'm so happy to welcome Sandy Best and Aynsley Cockshott to the show. Thank you both for joining us today. And how are you both doing?
You know what? Doing fine. It's sort of enjoying some aspects of this experience. I think all, other people are too. And then, it's sort of ups and downs, like some days it's great and other days you miss the sort of normality of the old life. So, but otherwise good.
Yeah, same. I think, for me, we're fine. My family's very fortunate. I'm working. The kids are good. A lot of, it's been kind of a pensive time for me, though, a lot of reminiscing and having this chat with you today. I have a child here at home who's graduating this year from grade 12, and I have one who just graduated from university at U of T. And during this time, like, there's nothing for them, right? Other than, they're not going to get to have the kind of graduation experience that we had or any of these types of rituals and traditions. So I feel sad for them. So we're fine, we're great, but at the same time, it is kind of a time of, it's a unique and kind of interesting time. And I think those of you who are graduating now, or if you know people who are, it's going to be a different sort of unique, you'll have very different memories, say, than we have.
John, you're muted.
And the doll assembly, of course, is the kickoff to all of that. I'm sure you remember it kind of marked that transition between all the work that you put in and a time to begin the celebrations and the reward for that work.
So what do you remember about the doll assembly in 1983? Take us back if you can.
Yeah, I was afraid I would get asked that question. So, the sad fact of the matter is that was a long time ago and details are murky. But I'm glad I had some time to think about it, and I have more memories around the feeling of it, not the specifics of it. I remember being really excited. I remember wanting, you don't know who's making your doll and you don't know if it's going to look like you. And I think it feels like a surprise. It's something that's sort of exciting and thrilling. And in a weird sort of way, I remember you feel like you are being recognized because someone's put so much time and effort into this, and so it's sort of it's an interesting experience, right? And I remember being really excited about it, and especially about when I got to meet my doll. So those are the things I remember, but I don't remember the room. I don't remember where I sat. Those things I don't remember, but I remember the feeling of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you had already made a doll for someone else the year previously, so you knew that it was important. And you just hoped, I remember hoping, I hope my doll looks like me in some respects, and feeling really happy that, my doll had green eyes and short dark hair, which was what I had at the time. And that someone, put the effort into looking at me and making sure that my doll reflected my reality, like who I was. And I felt so pleased when I got my doll, and yes, it did look like me, and there were little details that were so special and sweet that the person had done, which were unexpected, and it was a really special ceremony. And I really liked what you said, Sandy, about people who are graduating right now. I have 2 sons who graduated and had the whole experience. And I have a nephew who's graduating this year and who is, not having that experience. But I sort of see it as, and I don't know how grads see it this year, but it's an opportunity to do something different. I mean, in some ways, no one will ever have this experience that they're having. So in some ways, they're having an experience that is so unique and so different. And so that's special in its own way, even though they're not being celebrated in the way that, you know, we have come to expect.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I don't think we're not going to realize how different and how unique it is until these graduations happen and things like that. But that's a great point. No one else in the history has had to deal with, in recent history, has to deal with something like this.
On a lighter note, I mean, you both talk a little bit about hair, and I'm wondering, how does your doll's hair compare to the hairstyle today? Is it similar? Oh, look at it. And here we go.
Oh my God. Sandy, good for you. You've got your doll there.
Because we talk about going back down memory lane and looking at the grads, and it's the hairstyles that the girls still talk about. It's like, what's going on with the hair?
I know. My hair's actually, well, it's up now because I was just out for a hike, but it wasn't that different. I always, my Donica, who's not on the call, she used to call me pocket face. And I had bangs and then long straight hair to my shoulder. So she called me pocket face. She was always very flattering. So yeah, so here's my doll's version of pocket face.
Very supportive, Donica.
So supportive.
So I think you kind of answered my next question. So do you remember, I think you do you remember whose doll you made? And of course, who made your doll? Aynsley, maybe do you want to start?
Oh gosh, no. I actually don't remember the doll that I made or who I made it for. I remember, I think it was, this is horrible. And actually Sandy and I were angsting about this over the messaging. And what we sort of came to, the conclusion we came to is that, you know, just as we've said before, the actual moment of getting the doll was important, but then it's sort of come to mean more to us now in a strange way, because I was telling Jen Cloutier that Sandy and Donica and Tanis and I had this Zoom cocktail hour and we all brought our dolls. And so in some ways it means more now than it did then. You know, when you're graduating from high school, it's like, although you loved BH, it's kind of like you're just looking forward and you're looking to the future. And now that you're a bit older, and especially with these times, you're kind of looking back and seeing what a special thing it was and how unique it was, and how, you know, who else in the world has a doll that looks like them. And it's so BH. And so, I mean, I'm not answering your question, but in some ways I feel like it means more to me now than it did then, in a way.
Totally makes sense.
I just got to jump in because I've talked with students who've brought their dolls to university, and they're sharing a dorm room, and they proudly display the doll, and the roommate inevitably goes, "What is that? And where did you get it?"
Yeah. And so, Sandy, do you remember whose doll you made?
I don't. I have the same thing. I cannot remember whose doll I made, and I've racked my brains, but I do know who made mine, and it was a girl named Mary Lee Horbay, who's obviously in grade 11, who I knew quite well. And it's funny because, again, I haven't thought about Mary Lee, and then when I was thinking about my doll, I remember so much about Mary Lee. Like, we had a great, like, the grade 11 class was pretty feisty. They were a sparkly crowd, and they were a lot of fun. And Mary Lee was one of them. And I still remember her so well, her energy, and she was just so great. And I remember when I did get my doll, being thrilled that Mary Lee had made it. Like, that was the other thing, is you don't know who has got your doll. So that was another fun thing. And anyway, she was so much fun. So I have a lot of good memories about that too. Because that's, yeah, I mean, I guess we can talk a little bit more about traditions later, but that is an interesting component of it, is, you know, who made your doll.
What I really liked about, so when I reflect back on my own children's graduation ceremonies, what I loved about BH, and I'm not sure that this is still the tradition at BH, but I mean, the grade 11 class put on the grad for the grade 12s, and it was very DIY or DIY. I mean, we were in charge, and there was a couple of teachers who may have been supervising it, but it wasn't an elaborate sort of over the top. It was a very appropriate, I think, appropriate celebration for a graduation from high school, which is an important event, but it's just one step in your life. And I really liked the fact that we had so much autonomy as grade 11 students, and that we were given a lot of sort of, and it wasn't like a wedding. It was just a very simple grad. I thought that was a great leadership opportunity for grade 11s to do that. And I'm not sure how it goes now.
It's definitely different now. That is very, I was unaware of that. I don't know if John, if you knew that, yeah, that's interesting. And you would do an amazing job as grade 11s because you knew that the next year,
yeah,
you would be relying on grade 11s to throw your grade.
That's right. I think, Aynsley, you and I were on the committee when we were in grade
We
11,
were.
which is why we got to go to that grade 12 grad. I'm trying to remember why we were there.
Well,
that's why.
Yeah,
and we went in Mr.
right.
Russell's car. Remember Mr. Russell's little
Oh my God. The old
car.
headmaster, Mr. Russell, Tom Russell.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, a throwback.
Yeah, who lived at the school in Aiken's house.
Right. Interesting. Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
So I think you've answered the question. You both still have the doll. So where is the doll kept?
Oh, okay,
Sandy.
that's for me. Well, so this is very funny. So where's the doll kept? So it only came back to me last year. So my mother has this way, like I just get these boxes randomly. She lives in Nova Scotia, I live in Vancouver. And they come out of the blue. There's not usually a letter or anything in them, and it's just full of stuff. And what is
My
that?
mom just throws it out.
Well, I mean, I always think you went to all this trouble. You could have put a note in it, but no. Anyway, and I was opening up this box, and it had all kinds of stuff in it. But it had this doll in it, and I had forgotten about the doll.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled it out, and I was just like, it was amazing to have it back. So anyway, it brought back a lot of memories. I had put it in a cupboard. I got it out for our Zoom call like a month or two ago with Tanis and Aynsley and Donica. And so it's been around the house, and my boys, I have 4 sons, they think it's really creepy, I'm just going to say. So, because it keeps moving. And they're like, it's like an automaton or something, right? And they're like, there's that creepy doll again. Because I keep putting it in different places. So I don't know. It's hilarious. Boys take these things a little bit differently. But now she's with me here in my office.
Yes, I'm so glad that you brought her to this meeting.
Thank you.
And mine is upstairs in my closet. Oh dear. But she was sitting, and the same thing that Sandy said, I didn't even know where she was, but my parents are moving, and so I've been helping them downsize. And so I found my doll, and just before our Zoom call, and so we all brought our dolls to the Zoom call, and it was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a picture of my Zoom call. I don't know if I can say this to students, but with a bottle of wine beside her. And you might have to edit that out. But anyway, and sent it to, our friends, Donica, Sandy, and Tanis, and then sent it to a bunch of other friends who alums of BH who I'm still in touch with. And it was like, they all got it. I mean, it was like this hilarious picture. And like I was saying before, in a way, it's more important to me now than it was when I just graduated.
I think you started.
Oh, and here she is.
Oh, she's.
And
My husband just brought me my doll.
both dolls.
Yeah, and Grant is an SJR grad.
Okay.
So, dueling schools, basically.
Absolutely. Well, you began to answer my next question. And the next question, and we'll start with you, Aynsley. Why do you think this tradition is so important and so memorable for everybody in the BH community?
Well, I do think that it's completely unique. I mean, there may be other schools who do this, but I've never heard of it. And, it's sort of a snapshot in time of, I'm not sure when the tradition started, but I think it's maybe started in the 70s or 80s. And so for all of those girls who graduated from BH, they have this unique experience of receiving a doll. And it's a touchstone for all of us. I mean, you know, like I said, when I sent the picture out of my doll to my friends, I mean, everyone got it at a very elemental level, you know, because they all have their dolls, and whether or not they know where their dolls are, or, you know, it's in someone's mother's basement or whatever, but it's like, oh yes, that's an experience that I share with you and that we share with each other. And so I think that's the importance of it. I mean, just that it's so unique, and that we all share this together.
And Sandy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything you said. And I was thinking a lot about, you know, that I love the bringing together of that grade 11, 12 years classes, the fact that you're sort of forging those connections, because, you know, you're both classes are poised sort of to leave and to move on, and you are looking forward. And sort of as you're going, you've got the girls that you've been friends with sort of supporting you, and yet you're also modeling that for them. And that handover just feels like such a symbolically important thing. It's like the girls are saying goodbye to you. We care about you. We'll miss you because you're there. And yet and then you feel loved as you leave too. And as Aynsley said, we all have this. And it was just funny that when we got together, we've stayed in touch, but we got together for the Zoom call and we all just brought our dolls. And it was just so hilarious that we have this thing that, and it's really fun. It's just a really fun thing. So I think traditions, right? These little traditions that can stay with you. And as like, it's almost like when you unpack the box and you're not expecting it, and all the memories just come back to you, and they can be, the doll brings a lot of that with you, the happiness of those years. And, you know, I thought about Mary Lee, and I thought about the doll assembly, and you feel loved, like someone has taken all that time and effort to make something so beautiful for you. Like it's a very, I do remember feeling very kind of recognized in that. And that's a nice feeling of warmth, you know, to have.
It's like a physical representation of your time at Balmoral Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I wonder if it means more to get one after you spent a year making one as well, because you know exactly what that individual went through to make yours.
Yeah.
And you know that Terry Friesen was asking you at certain points, so have you put the hair on? Like, where are you in the doll making process? And you're of course lying to her, saying like, oh yes, of course, I've done this and that. And you're going home.
The eyes.
And you're panicking because you're way behind in the doll making process.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow she shepherded all of us through it. And I think everyone came away with an amazing doll. And she was so patient and lovely. And I can't imagine what that would have been like, chasing all these girls down like, but anyway.
Well, John's favorite part of the doll assembly is this. Well, John, why don't you tell us? What's your favorite part?
Well, best friends. I love best friends.
So did you sing the song Best Friends at the doll assembly in 1983?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Oh.
What is that song?
That's a new thing.
Ring a bell is in the lyrics.
Yeah, it is. You know, it was written, you know, we need to look that up to figure out exactly when that originated as well. So that is interesting. So I think if there's an opportunity to tune into this year's virtual doll assembly for the Alumnae, I would take that up and we'll have all those answers for you. But that's kind of another part of the tradition, that it's a song that is sung at the beginning of the year and then again at the end. But it's a tradition. It's a moment that unless you're there, you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think Best Friends was around when we were at school, but I did go to a doll ceremony in 2013, and I have a picture of myself with Terry Fulton Bailey and Teresa Friesen from that day. I went because friends of mine, their daughters were graduating. And they sang that song, and I don't remember that song from our days, but it's beautiful, it's lovely. And everybody knows the song, and it's
Yeah, it's funny because as a new staff member, when you show up for the opening assembly, and I think it's just kind of on purpose, they don't tell you that that's about to happen, and then you see it happen, but you've only been there for a few days, and so it's surreal. But once you do it once, then you're part of the family. So
Yeah.
How, I guess you've mentioned that you've been able to connect with some of your fellow graduates. How have you been able to connect with a few of the 1983 BH grads, and what, I guess we talked about the Zoom call, but have you been able to still keep in touch?
Yeah, I mean, we have. I mean, it's sort of, I was thinking about that too, because I moved away from Winnipeg. Like after I graduated, I went away for university, and then my parents left Winnipeg sort of as I graduated. So we never lived in Winnipeg again after I graduated, like, after I graduated university, so I've been back a few times. One of our close friends, Donica, got married the year after we all graduated from university. So I was back for that. And then I'm in Vancouver, and so we've had a few kind of reunion type things. They all came out, Tanis, Aynsley, and Donica, to Whistler once, and we had a grand adventure, and that's a whole other podcast if you ever want to hear about that.
Do not mention that, Sandy.
Yeah, for a few mishaps, we'll just say. We're all still alive. But anyway, there was that. And yeah, we've done lots of things together over the years. Certainly for me, it's a little more difficult because Aynsley's still in Winnipeg, and Tanis is there too. Donica's in Souk, I'm here, but we stay in touch, and we've had a lot of fun. So yeah, I think going back to traditions and memories, I mean, those friendships stay forever. And even when you're, years pass because you're raising your children or working, you're still connected. It doesn't take much, just a call and you're back in it again.
That's right.
I agree. Together, that would be nice.
And I think, as Sandy alluded to, I mean, you can go through periods of you're busy with your life, you're raising young children, you're whatever you're doing, and there's a period of time where you don't really connect with each other. But as soon as you make that contact, you're right back where you were. And so I would say that to the girls who are graduating this year, and don't worry about, necessarily if you're not in touch with your friends, for a period of a few years, or maybe 10 or 12 years. But if there's a connection there, you will find it again. It just takes one call, or, seeing a doll, or whatever it takes. The thread is there, and you just pull the thread and you're back, so.
Yeah, that's great advice.
What a great metaphor. What a great metaphor.
And yeah, John does love metaphors. I guess just before we go, when was the last time you both were at BH?
Well, okay, so the funny thing is I was in Winnipeg last summer I think it was Canadian Medical Association. I was at a conference in Winnipeg, and it was the first time I took enough time to myself, because usually I'm working. And I actually walked from my hotel downtown. I walked all the way to BH. I walked all over the grounds. Well, I couldn't really get in, again, that was really emotional. It was amazing. I stood outside those gates, and it's like so different, right? To be on the outside too. I really wanted to get in there, and it was summertime, so there's no one there. But it was amazing. I loved it. And then I walked all around all the land around there through the Gates neighborhood where I had friends, and then back to my old house, and
on Ruskin Row.
Yeah, on Ruskin Row, and it was just
it was such a great house. Oh my gosh.
Well, if it happens again, email us and we'll get you in.
Thank you. It was very emotional, actually. I was only there for like 3 years in the school, like the last 3 years of high school, but they were amazing years. Like I had the best time, right? It was an amazing 3 years of my life, very rich. So yeah, I have super fond memories. Great to see the building. It's beautiful.
That's great. And I think, Aynsley, you mentioned 2003. Have you been there since?
Well, actually, yes. I'm on the foundation board.
Oh, okay. So you're there quite often.
So my sons, my husband is a lifer, as they call themselves, at SJR. And my two sons are also lifers at SJR. So, I was sort of brought into that SJR school and life as a parent, and was very involved as a volunteer there, and sort of had mixed feelings because I'm a BH girl and SGR was always sort of like the enemy camp.
Except they had boys. Come on.
Well, that's true.
Come on.
True. So, but I fully embraced it once my kids were there, and had a wonderful experience there. But after, they've both graduated, I felt like, okay, this is a time when I can get back to BH because these are my roots. And both my kids, by the way, went to BH. Owen was there in kindergarten, JK and kindergarten. And then SGR started kindergarten, and then boys were no longer allowed, or not, they didn't have a program that included boys after that. So at least my boys, went to BH for, a little time. But I'm really happy to be back at BH and giving back to the school that meant so much to me. So anyway, so yes, I've been to BH very recently.
I just got to throw in there that my son asks me quite often, Daddy, why can't I go to your school?
Aw. Nice.
Yeah, John and I both have a daughter at Balmoral Hall, and then of course John's son goes to another school. But my daughter's in junior kindergarten,
Oh,
and John's daughter is in grade 7.
nice.
Just before we go, this has been, we could talk for hours, I'm sure. And if either of you are in the building, please come find us. We're not hard to find. Just say hi. But are there any questions maybe that you guys have about BH that possibly we could answer other than when Best Friends started?
I guess, what do you love about the school? You're very enthusiastic. You've got a lot of energy. What does BH mean to you?
We were talking actually on the last episode about, I went to the school for the first time in 65 days on about a week on Friday.
Oh, right, of course.
The closing, and in my 12 years, I've never been away from the school that long. And
Wow.
I walked in those doors, and it was emotional. It was powerful. It's like many visitors, and I've said this on this show before. It's not hard to see why people automatically consider it home. There's just that feeling, or as the kids these days say, there's that vibe. But
Yeah.
it's a community that is so impressive and uplifting. It's definitely the feeling. John?
For me, I think I teach because it's an act of optimism. And so whenever I engage with the students at BH, that I just am overwhelmed by, there's a sense of hope as we move forward. And that's why I do what I do. And I'm really fortunate. And in spending this time with you, I can see that a BH student's a BH student. And it's so great to see that, whether it's 1983 or 2020, the same kind of, tenacity, the same kind of gumption, the same kind of verve, the same kind of passion exists. And so this has been a total treat for me. And I've never been more proud to be a part of this community, and I really appreciate this sense of perspective that you've provided with one of our really important traditions, the doll assembly. So I just can't say thanks enough, but I've really enjoyed our conversation here today.
Well, that's so nice.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I feel very appreciated, and it's been a pleasure to share my feelings about this. And also to see Sandy's face here again. So nice.
Hello.
Well, again, I know John obviously stated how he feels. I feel the same way. We're very grateful for you and thankful for your time. I certainly hope that you are able to stay connected with the school and come and visit, and when everyone's allowed back, and we'll definitely be there. We'll walk you around and we'll catch up again.
And when you come, we'll show you. We have dolls too. We'll show you our dolls.
We do.
Oh, right on. Awesome.
They're hilarious. But this has been great. This is what BH means. This is exactly it. This is why the community is so strong. So Thank you very much, and I hope you'll think about coming back on and joining us in a future episode down the road.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
As we end episode 8, we'd like to thank our guests for taking the time to chat with us this week. Thank you to the BH Alumnae Relations Coordinator, Jen Cloutier, for taking the time to talk to us about her experience at the Doll Assembly and her role, the role that she played this year. Thank you to Portia and Alicia Topnick for sharing with us their experience at the 2020 virtual Doll Assembly. A big shout out, as always, to Mr. John Kerr for his insight, the laughs, and the company.
Nice to be here.
And finally, a big thanks to producer Chris in the booth for always taking care of us and for still laughing at our jokes when nobody else is. We'll be back next week with episode 9, where we'll be catching up with the BH Parent Association and speaking to incoming Vice President of the BHPA, Carrie Lai. We'll also be talking about math learning in junior and middle school with BH learning coach Megan Muchmore. And current debate and public speaking prefect Lindsay Cogan will update us on the Junior National Debate Tournament that just took place virtually. That and more stories, metaphors, and fun. Thank you so much for listening each week. Until next time, friends.
Bye, folks.
2.
What makes you say that?
What Makes You Say That is a Balmoral Hall School production, all rights reserved.